Welcome, everyone. If you want to share what you have to prepare your space, kind of fun. I have a candle and sage and all sorts of things. We'll be getting started in a couple minutes.
Jeneve, this is Audrey. I have some of the same items that you mentioned, the sage, the crystals, incense, my feathers. Yeah, just the whole energy. I'm working all day to keep it in a nice, beautiful, sacred, spiritual feeling and atmosphere.
Beautiful.
My name is Lori, and I have an apple branch, a candle, and the candle is in a holder. And so it's kind of symbolic of bears hibernating and getting ready to slow down and go inward.
Beautiful.
I have an indigenous doll from Mexico, which was very hard to find. Got her in the 90s. I was in Oaxaca.
Oh,
and
nice.
I have a picture of a cardinal, which is very beautiful. I haven't seen one since I was in my home state of Michigan.
Oh, nice. Mary Beth, yeah, my favorite season is fall as well.
Hi, my name is Betsy, and I have a candle that a very good friend gave to me. And then I have my little bird and Buddha with me and some incense. And from the earth, I have this cod that I found on the street from a tree.
Nice.
I'm Amanda, and I have an apple, and I have a little homemade resin keychain that a friend made that is sort of like a pocket watch that's kind of like has a pleasant sound and feel, and I thought it'd be nice to hold in my hand for meditative things since I have ADHD.
Nice.
Amanda, I recognize that voice.
Oh, you do? Are you?
This is Jackie.
Oh, hi, Jackie. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Yes, but I've heard your voice. Yeah.
Good to hear you.
Yeah, thank you. I thought it was going to be one of those Zooms where you guys don't see us. We can't see anything other than the presenters. So I'm in my recliner because I have to have my foot up, and I'm like, oh God, we're seeing each other. Oh no.
Looks like there's a mix, right?
And I've been out working, and so my hair's up. I got torn t-shirt. It's like, well, I'm coming as is for sure.
That's right.
Well, thank you all for being here. We'll go ahead and get started. I'll turn off this music. And thank you so much. I'm really excited that we're gathering today in honor of the fall equinox and trying to rest together, to practice self-love and self-care, but also in community care, and taking this time to be together and share. I just wanted to say that I'm Jeneve Brooks. I am the coordinator, the Strategic Support Initiatives Coordinator at Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, with the acronym WILPF. And I know that there's a lot of activists here from different places, doing different work, or just people that maybe aren't totally into activism, but are in the progressive space. And I was wondering if people wouldn't mind dropping in the chat where you're from, where you're located, and also what issues you work on, and if you have an organizational affiliation, or just what issues you care about. And we also have caregivers. Yes, I am a caregiver, and I know we have a lot of caregivers here too. So anyway, just to give you a little idea about WILPF, I'm just excited that we're doing this event because it's a continuation of WILPF's amazing work, working for a better world for all. And if you aren't familiar with us, we do have a lot of WILPFers here too, but I know we have a lot of different people here. So just to give you a sense, we are the oldest feminist peace organization. We were started in 1915 when women gathered from all over the world and descended on The Hague, trying to stop World War I. And Jane Addams was our first president. And so it's a really amazing history. We work on a lot of different issues, peace and disarmament, obviously being a big one. But we also work on human rights, economic justice issues, the environment. And the cool thing about WILPF is that we are a multi-issue, diverse, non-hierarchical, feminist organizing principles, but men can join, anyone can join as well. We are open to everyone, trans, whatever, however you identify, cisgender. This is a welcoming space to everyone. And one thing that's really cool is that people can choose what they want to work on. For example, Ellen Thomas, who's helping us with this, the technology of this Zoom, she's outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and works with a WILPF branch there, but she also has been very involved in the disarmament committee. And she actually won Peacemaker of the Year award last year in Asheville. And so we thank her for helping us. And also another example of another issue committee, Mary Beth Gardam, who's on the call. She is the chair of Women, Money, and Democracy, and they work on economic justice issues, public banking. And then recently we have a bunch of different issue committees, advancing human rights, all sorts of things. Recently, we had a woman who was a domestic abuse survivor. She started her own issue committee and has now grown it. And it's domestic prisoners of war, and they advocate for survivors of domestic abuse. So a lot of different things. And I just wanted to say that, you know, if you're interested in finding out more, you can go to our website. I think Mary Beth just posted in the chat. And to join is only $35, and you can actually be connected to progressive activists all over the country. And also, since we're international, you can be connected to work all over the world. We're in 41 countries, 6 regions of the globe. So it's really an amazing opportunity. And we usually have branches in different cities. I'm in Dothan, Alabama, so there is not a branch here yet. Surprise, surprise. But I'm part of the virtual branch, which is the Jane Addams branch, which I love saying, I'm part of the Jane Addams branch. So anyway, enough about kind of just explaining what WILPF is, but I really hope you check us out if you don't know us more. And it looks like we have, you know, people here working with peace, climate, LGBTQ issues, Latin American solidarity issues, single parent and a grandparent, yes, caregiving, spirituality and voter rights, Glenda from Headland, Alabama. Just a lot of different work here. And I also think, I know I have some Our Revolution folks here that work on a lot of democracy issues and voting. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the great work that you do. The flyer that we put out for this event, it feels like the world is really spinning right now. There's so much going on. You know, we have ongoing war, nuclear threat, the earth is burning, the threats to our democracy. Can't believe that Trump is still the front runner in the Republican Party. It's just all sorts of stuff. Plus, it feels like a lot of our personal lives are really just swirling. And so we need to find time to rest, and we yearn to find time to relax and to connect. and just to be on this equinox day. The equinox, as you know, it's equal parts of light and dark, and it's across the whole planet. Every country will experience this today, and the equinox is traditionally a time to set intentions, to rest, to give thanks for the harvest, gratitude for fall and the change of seasons, and basically just getting balance again in our lives. So it's a nice time to just take a moment to stop. So just to let you know how the next 90 minutes or so will go, I will be briefly reflecting on Tricia Hersey's book, Rest is Resistance. And I also will talk about something that I've gotten into recently for my own rest. I use dance as a form of meditation, and it's something that I've just been called to. And I know it sounds really hippy dippy, but you know, I am. So there you go. So I'll be sharing a little bit of a YouTube video, and I will be dancing. You can dance with me if you want. You can turn off your camera if you're self-conscious, or you can just watch me make a fool of myself. But it should be just a space for us to release together today. Then we will have the esteemed Audrey Scott Williams. She is going to be presenting the main presentation on peace medicine, stop, breathe, and let go. And that will be followed by Martha Collins, an amazing activist who's going to lead us in the wellness wheel towards the end. So unfortunately, Keela Joyner could not be with us because she has caregiving issues. We're talking about caregiving too, with her grandparents right now. And I will be providing fuller introductions to Audrey's work as well as Martha's work before they present. So let me just start, and I'm gonna move my candle and rearrange my altar here. And I just wanted to say that Tricia Hersey's book, Rest is Resistance, here it is. It's a beautiful reflection, and I don't want to get too intellectual in talking about it. The book reads like a meditation on rest, and I just wanted to read a little bit from the covers talking about her bio, just so you get a sense of her work. Tricia Hersey is an artist, poet, theologian, and community organizer. She is the founder of the Nap Ministry, an organization that examines rest as a form of resistance. By curating sacred spaces for the community to rest via collective napping experiences. These are immersive workshops, performance art installations, and she is a global pioneer and originator of the movement to understand the liberatory power of rest. She is the creator of Rest is Resistance frameworks, and her research includes Black liberation theology, womanism, somatics, and cultural trauma. She's a Chicago native and currently lives in Southern Georgia. And I just want to quickly read the front cover, and then I'll talk a little bit more about her story and how she kind of came to developing Rest is Resistance. It says, disrupt and push back against capitalism and white supremacy by connecting to the liberating power of rest, daydreaming and naps as a foundation for healing and justice. Tricia Hersey, the founder and creator of the Nap Ministry, encourages us to elevate rest as a form of resistance and a divine human right. What would it be like to live in a well-rested world? Far too many of us have claimed productivity as a cornerstone of our success. We're brainwashed by capitalism. We subject our bodies and minds to work at an unrealistic, damaging, and machine-level pace, feeding into the same engine that enslaved millions into the brutal labor for its relentless benefit. In Rest is Resistance, Tricia Hersey, AKA the Nap Bishop, casts an illuminating light on our troubled relationship with rest and shows us how to imagine and dream our way to a future where rest is valued. So just talking about her bio a little bit, she is a theologian. She went to seminary and she was working, you know, the typical grad student issues, didn't have much money, was working like 3 minimum wage jobs, was commuting 2 hours one way, multiple transfers, you know, buses, And she was just exhausted, and she was reading a lot of slave narratives just for her work and her thesis. And she was just struck by how exhausted she felt from reading all of this, but also reflecting on her own life and how much she felt like she was a slave to the capitalist system, to just, you know, not being able to have the space to dream, to imagine. And so she would talk about like being at the seminary and a comfy lounge, laying on a sofa, reading slave narratives, and she would just fall asleep with the slave narratives on her chest. And she was thinking to herself, like, I've got to rest for my ancestors. I've got to rest for myself. And so she wrote this book, and it is called A Manifesto, Rest is Resistance. And I just wanted to read you a couple of passages that are very, very poignant. To be who we were before the terror of white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy is the power of resting. To no longer be ravaged by this culture's incessant need to keep going no matter what, to produce at all costs. This is why we rest. Grieving the reality of being manipulated to believe we are not enough, divine, or valuable outside of our accomplishments in our bank account is a central part of our rest work. It is sad and disturbing. I only started to confront and acknowledge the grief present in me with so many others in 2015 when I founded the NAP ministry. I understand that many reading this book have never sat with the grief and the pain associated with attaching your worth to productivity and money. So she has other powerful, you know, the whole book is very meditative. And I actually read it recently when I had COVID and I could not work. And I was just, you know, reading and really reflecting on our need for rest. Rest is not a luxury, a privilege or bonus we must wait for once we were burned out. I hear so many people repeat the myth of rest being a privilege, and I understand this concept and still deeply disagree with it. Rest is not a privilege because our bodies are still our own, no matter what the current system teaches us. The more we think of rest as a luxury, the more we buy into the systematic lies of grind culture. Our bodies and spirits do not belong to capitalism, no matter how it is theorized and presented. Our divinity secures this, and it is our right to claim this boldly. I'm not grinding ever anymore. I trust the Creator and my ancestors to always make a space for my gifts and talents without needing to work myself into exhaustion. So when I was reading the book and reflecting, sometimes we do feel like we don't have time to rest, simply because of all the things that we have to get done with our activist work, with our, you know, paid work, if it's not doing activism, with our families, with caregiving, all of these things. So she gives different ideas for resting that doesn't necessarily involve huge chunks of time. She says resting can look like closing your eyes for 10 minutes, a longer shower in silence, meditating on the couch for 20 minutes, daydreaming by staring out a window, sipping warm tea before bed in the dark, slow dancing with yourself to slow music, experiencing a sound bath or a sound healing, a sun salutation, a 20-minute timed nap, praying, crafting a small altar for your home, a long warm bath, taking regular breaks from social media, not immediately responding to texts and emails, deep listening to a full album, a meditative walk in nature, knitting, crocheting, sewing, quilting, playing a musical instrument, deep eye contact, and laughing intensively. So I just want us to reflect, and I will be sending out a resource sheet after to everyone that's signed up for this, and I will include links to her book and other resources as well around the equinox. But I want to take this time just to close out with, again, something that I've been doing. Dance is a form of meditation. And I'm going to pull up the video. And we'll just take a few minutes together. Now, again, if you don't feel comfortable with this, please feel free to turn off your camera and we will get started. This is actually women that are dancing in Bali, and they are calling it ecstatic dance. I found, kind of going down the rabbit hole in YouTube with my burgeoning interest in dance as meditation, that people call it dance meditation, trance dance, ecstatic dance. There's different names for it, and you can find a lot of different YouTube videos, and I'll try and link that in the resource sheet as well.
Waters of Bali, and invite you to come out of your seats and into a stand.
I apologize. Let me see if it's.
Standing tall as a mountain, rooting your feet into the earth, closing your eyes, curling the shoulders back, opening the heart space, and taking deep belly breaths. With each breath, envision that you are filling every single organ with light. Sinking deeper and deeper into the earth. Detaching from the energies, the worries, and the chaos of the day.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone was able to hear it. Okay, it is working, sorry.
Calling in your full body presence here and now. And on your next exhale, begin to soften your knees, your shoulders, your jaw, and begin to wake up your fingers, stretching, making circles with your wrists. And gently place the tips of your fingers upon your skin, gently tracing, noticing the sensations as you connect skin to skin, exploring your entire silhouette, inviting every cell to come alive. And with this same presence, begin to find something in your space, a natural element like a stone or a leaf, your walls, your floors, or simply the air around you. Continue to trace its skin, noticing the textures, the patterns. Become conscious of the presence of this life form, as each presence has a story to share. Begin to dance with it. Shape-shifting your home temple into a dance temple, coming into energetic release.
Thank you. So I hope we're able to move a little bit, or just roll your neck out or your shoulders as we prepare for going into Audrey's presentation. It should be wonderful. I just want to tell you briefly about Audrey before I turn it over. Audrey Scott Williams served as a spiritual director at the Spiritual Enrichment Center in Dothan, Alabama from 2018 to 2023. And I had the honor to work with her there. I was the board president at the time, and she has an extensive background in interfaith engagement, from leading global walks for human rights and environmental justice on 6 continents. She's been the global trustee of the United Religions Initiative. And she's also served as the interim global Indigenous coordinator and co-convener of the Hidden Seeds Global Indigenous Gathering. She also is the CEO of an organization called 20 Million Women Strong. And she is currently they're the sponsoring organization for Redemption Voyage 2026. So Audrey also has written numerous books, and I will be linking those in the resources too, if you want to check out some of her work. And Audrey, I am going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jeneve. It's really an honor to be sitting with here with all of you who put so much into your work. And many of you have done this over years to create a world that is well. That's how I would put it, to create a world that's well. And I always like to say, from the inside out. So we can only affect and accomplish what we want to accomplish to the extent that we're willing to go deep inside and do that same work inside. So when we have that, we have our own equinox, the balance of the light and the dark. And this is that time in many communities around the world. I've been with indigenous communities pretty much on all continents. And one of the things that women have in common is that during the various cycles of the moon and the sun, whether it's the equinoxes or the solstices, each one has a very significant meaning for many of the women around the world during this time where we have the balance of the light and the dark. It's a time when we center in, find that silent space and ask ourselves questions. Who am I? Just who am I? We don't have to have an answer. It's the question that will bring the answer forward. Who am I? What am I here to do? What is it time for me to let go of so that I can embrace the things that it's time for me to bring forward, not only in my life, but for the work that we're doing in the world. Very important. The other thing that I find that's a common thread is that there is a timeout. There are timeout periods during the day when we allow ourselves to step off the grind and breathe, whether it's dancing, walking, or taking a nap. I know for me, the older I get, I really value the nap. You know, I think that's napping as resistance also. So we must take the time to take care of ourselves. And then the third thing is celebrating everything, celebrating the earth. This is a time you'll find in many communities around the world, because we're all having this experience. In the Northern Hemisphere, we're going into the dark night. We're going into the winter, into the harvest time. In the Southern Hemisphere, the earth is awakening. We're going into the light when things are birthing and when it's time to get out and play. So this celebration is so important, and it's important because it connects us to the earth. It connects us to the natural order of things as a way of remembering who we are. I wanted to take a moment, if you will, and do just a quick meditation with you that comes from the book, Awakening the Heart of the Beloved Community, that I wrote many years ago. But a friend of mine, Diane Longboat, and she's Mohawk in Six Nations in Canada. I want to share this with you, but I want you to just relax into it. And the reason I wanted to start here is because what she does so beautifully is reminds us that the vision we see for change can only happen when we embody it, when we embody what we see, and when we embody it, not from just a personal perspective, but how we weave it into the rest of the world. So let me start with Diane. And I want you to just find a relaxing position. You know, close your eyes, just let the words flow. I'm not asking you to retain them, but just let it flow, okay? We are no longer a minority of desperate voices separated by distance, language, faiths, or cultures. Our future is not determined by social deficits, but by our resilience and collective strength, our belief in power and the power of the Creator. We have become the majority, seeking unconditional love, building a peaceful society, shifting to an equitable economy where all thrive, we're all thriving and believing in abundance, designing a social, just community of caring, loving people, making a safe community for men, women, and children, giving space to respectful and dignified living surroundings for our elders, communicating to healthful lifestyles, balanced mental health, and faith traditions that uphold the original instructions for life and respect for creation. This is the new world. It is prayed for, and it is already in place in the future. We as individuals must fulfill our individual missions and work each day collectively with our respective gifts to co-create the reality that is waiting for us. We, the living, may not see it in the fullness, but our grandchildren certainly will. The new world is well on its way. We, as a human family, have reached the tipping point for creating positive change. And the reason I wanted to begin with that, let's just take a deep breath, is because this is the fourth thing that I wanted to say about the women, is the celebrating. We talked about the rest. We talked about the gathering and valuing of each other and our connection to the earth. But Diane brings up the next thing. In every tribal community I've been, every indigenous community I've worked with, there is this knowing that we set an intention for the future and find our way into that future collectively. And so as we think about the equinox, the balance of the light and the dark, we're talking about the balance of the dreaming space and the living space. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, as we're about to see our environment going into the sleeping position, this is the hibernating stage. You know, the bears are preparing their caves. Many life forms are preparing time. You know, it's time to just slow it down. That we also embody that. What can we do that allows us to find the courage to let go? Take a deep breath on that one. The courage to let go. I've been an activist all my life. I was born into an activist family in the civil rights and the American Indian movement with my mom and dad and uncles and aunties and everyone. And one of the things that I'm just learning, I'm just really getting it, is that time of balance, of rest and work is so important. How many of you, with a show of hands, have reached that point in your greatest work where you just couldn't take the next step because you were exhausted? You found yourself having something wrong with your body and you're trying to figure out why. And what happens in that space? We lose ground in a way because we had then forced to stop. We're forced into a healing modality. Whereas as long as we are doing our healing, resting, dancing, celebrating as we go, we can avoid that. But what does it take? It takes community. It takes us building the community like we have right here. So that when I see Jeneve is looking mighty tired, and she's had sniffles 2 or 3 times this month, then maybe I need to step in and say, okay, sister, it's time to rest. It's time to rest. And I've had my rest, so I'm going to step in with my passion and my commitment and what drives me to do the work, because now I have the energy to do so. We must find the way. We must find the way, because I don't know about you, but the issues right now are too critical for us to burn out. The issues right now that we are facing need our loving attention focused inwardly so that we can project it outwardly. in a safe, loving, and regenerative way. And that's why Diane Longboat is giving us her prayer for the future, but also saying, look, this is the presence we are waiting for. Does that make sense? This is the presence that we are seeing. That's why we're out there struggling to make this world a better place. And it's possible. It has already happened in the future. But now we want to weave it into the now. We want to bring it forward. So let's just take a deep breath. And I want to have you hold 4 questions in your mind. I want you to just think in this moment of pause, what is my deepest truth? I want you to ask yourself that question. What is my deepest truth? Breathe into it. Let's breathe and exhale. The second question is, what is my soul's work? What is my soul's work? You know how you know when it's your soul work? It won't let you go. Anybody have that experience? You've got this driving force inside that calls to you every day when you're trying to take a nap, when you're trying to, you already have your hands full with the work that you're doing, but this soul calling, what is your soul calling you to do? Am I well? That allows us to put ourselves up front and assess how we are doing. Am I well? Because once you are clear on that, then you can take care of yourself if there is a need. Am I eating well? Am I living well? Am I resting well? Am I celebrating well? And the last question is, how do I refine my strategies so that I can survive my determination? And those are strategies that are pointed inward and strategies that are pointed outward. What do I need to do to make this work? I know I'm preaching to the choir. I do understand that. But in this time, as we're exploring this whole idea of the light and the dark being in balance, it's important for us to know, if I can borrow from my Indigenous brothers and sisters, this realization that our life cycles are connected to the cycles of the earth. When the earth decides it's time to rebalance ourselves, then let's get real about that balancing. I don't know about you, but I'm in this for the long haul, right? Shake your head if that's true for you. The work that you've done, the passion you hold, the gifts that you've been to the world. We need that to continue. And then shortly after, next week, we're going to go into the harvest moon. And what is the significance about the harvest moon? It's a time to gather all that we've sown over the year and decide what needs to be safely put away and what needs to be let go of. Because those are the things that are going to take you through this dark time. Dark meaning the sun is down now below the equator for the northern hemisphere. So it's the going to sleep time. It's the time when the bears are hibernating and other animals. So during this time, this is a rich time for me to examine what I hold inside, what I hold around me, what I've been gathering, and what's important for me to store. And just as important, what's important for me to let go of. Because it's not going to be long before we enter into that time of the solstice around the end of December, when what? The light begins to return again. We get into the infancy stage of that reawakening and renewal. So we want to be ready. We want to be ready to do our part, right? We want to take all that we've been harvesting and weaving over these few months to now, as the light returns, we're ready for it. But in order to be ready for it, it starts now. And it's very important to know, where am I in balance and where I'm not, so that you can begin to work on it individually and collectively. Women's medicine is a collective medicine. Women's medicine is dreaming medicine. And I've been involved with the Worldwide Indigenous Science Network for, 20 years or more. I'm on the board there. And we have dreaming circles that have been going on for over 20 years, where we share our dreams and we analyze these dreams and we work it out as a foundation. And many of these are activists as well. But they're using the dream experience to say, okay, well, how does that inform maybe something inside of me that I need to clear up? Or how does that say, oh, this is the time for me to step forward? And sharing our spirituality is nothing like dancing in a sacred circle with sisters of like mind, like intention. That doesn't mean we have the same strategies or the same goals, but we know how important this is to put our feet on the earth. You know, my partner and I, we walked around the world for 4 years with my mom. And what we would always imagine is that whenever our feet touched the ground, we were massaging Mother Earth. We were letting Mother Earth know that we're connected, right? That we're connected. And the other thing is, don't be surprised or minimize those things that come to you that somebody might say, oh, that's that woo-woo stuff. You know, women's medicine is dreaming medicine. It's the intuitive knowing. It's the intuitive aspect that we just know we know. And somebody can ask us a million times, well, how do you know? I know because I know. Because we are one with the earth, we are one with each other, and we are one beyond, whether we call it Creator, God, Jehovah, Muhammad, Buddha, whatever we may call that force, that creative power, we are one with it. And I want you to think on this. I don't know how long I've gone, so you all stop me when it's time, okay? Or if you're getting bored, just let me know. But I wanted to just say this. We had a discussion here on our property. Now we've kind of turned it into a sacred center. We just randomly gather, you know, different people come. And so the other day we had this conversation about all the bad stuff going on in the world. And, you know, we're activists, so we're all getting like all hyper, you know that feeling, you've all been there. And then all of a sudden, we all came to the conclusion, well, when we're sitting here in all this greenery, in this beautiful yard, this landscape, we all have safe spaces to be on the land together. This is perfection. This is our model of possibility. And so, you know what it did for me? It allowed me, so I guess I sort of rested on that equatorial line and, you know, sort of metaphorically speaking, it allowed me to say, I got to let go of always seeing the world in its worst state. Having walked around the world from the Kalahari Desert to New York City, I mean, that's about as two different as you can get. For the most part, nature was always there. Every day the sun rose. I guarantee you every night the sun went down. And so I realized that perfect balance, sometimes we just need to stop and sit in nature and gain our opportunity to look at how we can organize and structure, to look at what is really the problem. Because sometimes that energy that wants to define what the problem is also the energy that is the problem. So it behooves us to ask questions. And that's what I love about as we go into the equinox, a time of balance and moving into the solstice. We get to ask deep questions and then rest with those questions. And that's what Diane Longboat brought forward when reading her statement. She was reading the future into existence. She was gifting us with the future into existence. So I say this so that we don't get confused about what the issues are and where the struggle is. You know, this is a pivotal time on the earth. But if we get panic and frantic and just caught up in it, we may be as big a part of the problem as we are a part of the solution. That's what I came to when we came into this awareness of the perfection of Earth. Now, the Earth isn't the problem. I was in a gathering in Guatemala, and the elders, we had this big conversation going on about what are we going to do about the Earth, and how do we change our behavior, and how do we influence change in the corporate structures, and we were just going on, and you all know the questions because we're all in this together. Well, the elder just sat there, listened to us, and then finally he spoke. And it was a very simple thing that he said. You're sitting here worrying about the Earth, but the Earth is ultimately going to take care of herself, even if she has to shake everything else off the planet. So the problem isn't the Earth. The problem is, what are you going to do as an individual, as a person? Perspective. And so when we talk about climate change, it is the Earth's reaction to something that is not a living essence that is allowing the Earth to flourish. Something is interrupting the life cycle of the Earth. And so the Earth is now saying, we will demonstrate for you how you might want to get back at center point. And I could go on, but I want us to have some point of reference for what is perfection and what is our work. So that when we are trying to find balance in this, we don't go to the problem to find the balance. We look at nature and see how nature is responding as a part of the dialogue, as a part of the influence of the opportunity for us to be good stewards and to make great changes, and not to get disillusioned by what is being presented, but to be clear. Our grandchildren deserve that. And they can only get there if we take care of ourselves. We take time to breathe. We take time to walk in nature. In another book, there was an article that I did, and I just talked about this. I'm going to just leave on this and open it up for questions. What we learned to do on the walk to stay centered. The first was to establish a healthy relationship with ourselves. We could not be any good for anyone if we weren't good for ourselves. And because when you're walking on the highways and in the woods and in the forests and deserts, you better know who you are. You better be clear when you start out that morning, because that's the clarity that's going to guide you through to your destination. Number two, develop a spiritual practice. And it doesn't matter whether you call it religion or you call it spiritual, or you call it to sacred earth, whatever. Have some kind of practice that elevates you, that keeps you connected to a source that's greater than you, and yet is who you are as well. The third is spend at least 20 minutes a day in nature. We get so busy that we disconnect ourselves from nature, the natural order of things. So if we just take 20 minutes a day and walk in nature, or just sit out on your porch, you know, you have a good rocking chair, get out there on the porch and just look at the things that are around you that are natural, because nature heals and nature informs. Number 4, build supportive relationships. Be mindful of the relationships. Are you in a relationship that uplifts you? Are you in a relationship that helps you? It doesn't mean they have to say everything you want to hear. It may be that they say things you don't want to hear, but it helps you find your balance and your way. Number 5, help somebody. When we'd get in trouble on the walks and we didn't have any money for food or know where we're going to stay, we would immediately go into the community and find some way we can be a help to a family or whatever. We would just get to work. And as soon as we did that, the way became clear. And number 6, enroll in a program or activity that expands your awareness of self. And sometimes that can be challenging because, you know, our little egos get in the way and we're clear about who we are. And I don't know about anybody else, but this is who I am and who I'm going to be. But sometimes you need that outside source connection that reminds you of your potential for expansion, your potential for going even higher than doing greater works than what you even think you might be able to do, because you have a stronger a relationship with yourself. That essence helps us to become aware of who we are. You know, we need remembering sometimes. You know, we get in the tough places and we think, oh, I can't do this again. But we've already got the footprints. We just have to remember that they're there. And finally, develop the strength and courage to follow your passions, even if at times you must walk alone. Let's take a deep breath. Just close your eyes for a moment. In the image behind me, you see the sun setting on the horizon. Think of that as the sun now piercing the equator all around the world. Imagine that energy in you now. There's a part of you that's ready to rest, and a part of you that is ready to wake up. And yet, the call is to be still, to breathe, to dream. That call is our perfect peace. That is the nourishing energy that allows us to know what we want to carry forward when the light returns, when we go through now through the solstice. We'll know when the light returns what is ours to do. Take a deep breath, knowing that we'll do it well. Thank you. I open up for questions or comments or just sharing from your heart.
Thank you so much, Audrey. That was wonderful. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Audrey?
Did anyone? Yes. Is it Eileen? Ellen? My glasses are not quite Ellen, right? Or Eileen from Boston?
Yes, Eileen.
Okay, Eileen.
Oh my. Don't we have a lot of truths? Give me some examples of what you call truths. I'm a bit befuddled, as I often am, with words and how they're used. Can you help me out on that one?
I certainly will. I think perhaps a word that maybe is related to that is our own authenticity, being aware of the authentic self. the authentic aspect of what's happening in the world around us, and how we use that information to find ourselves, to find our center. Does that make sense, Eileen?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And thank you for bringing that up.
And also accepting the fact that we may have an authenticity, but within it, we flow and change. That's right. And emphasize different things. Yeah, it makes sense.
Absolutely. And that, that authenticity or truth or whatever word works best for you is why dreaming for the women and indigenous communities is so important, because they dream the future. You know what I mean? In a balanced situation. And I don't think it's just limited to indigenous. I think as women and mothers and grandmothers, we're doing that as well. That heart connection.
Sure. Thank you again.
Certainly.
Looks like Lori.
Lori? Okay.
Yes, I am only now learning about and wanting to get engaged with climate change, but it's so big and it makes me feel so, what do I do? And I am starting to think that for me to pick something that moves me, that is a spiritual connection for me. Like when I drink from my water bottle, my reusable water bottle, thanking Mother Nature. Do you have any other suggestions for how I could find a path forward into focusing on something?
Well, you mentioned one is you'll be becoming connected with your water. I think it was Dr. Emoto who talked about the power of using positive language and writing it on your water bottle, how it literally transforms the element, the atom, the shape of it. As if you follow some of his work and look at that in terms of crystal formations that come out of things you give your intentional love and beauty and grace to, it influences how the actual cellular structure changes. The other thing is, Lori, what I really love about this question is you're connecting what you want to do with what you love. And if you love the water, what about walking barefoot in the stream, or walking barefoot on the beach, or just, going down by a body of water and playing like a child? What would your child self have done? Splash in the water. And feel that connection to the earth. I think that is a very powerful thing, because there's a reciprocal call from the earth to you about what you may find is yours to do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Audrey.
Uh-huh.
Geneve, I have a question about how do you set boundaries when we are living in a world that's grime culture, and how do you take that time and kind of set those boundaries? Because I think we all, even in activist circles, there's a lot of pressure to get things done, and so how do you hold it all while still recognizing our need for balance, our need for rest, our need, just like that.
You've asked a question and answered it at the same time. Beautiful. It's as we're talking about this time, it's the of the equinox. It's the balance of the light and the dark. What gives you joy? What drains you? See, the issues don't change. The issues are there. Unfortunately, they don't change fast enough, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't we'd be celebrating on the beach, like the scenery behind me. But the issues are going to be there, and they're going to be disguised in all kinds of, or I should say cloaked in all kinds of materials. And we buy into it and we buy into it. And after a while, we forget why. And so what's so important, and I'm learning this, so don't think I'm an expert. I'm learning this, finally starting to get it. I'm working with this. Jeneve, what is so important is every day when you wake up, pause. I don't know about you all. Maybe nobody has had this experience but me. When I'm working on an issue, I wake up and I've got one foot getting out the bed and the other foot behind my desk. I'm just ready to go. And what I'm learning, Jeneve, is that how do we know the difference? We just have to breathe. You know, everything, the earth has really gives us that perfect balance if we just take time to know. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that are being called up for us to do. You know, I think about all the phone calls I get every day. If I answered every phone call, I'd be crazier, you know. But I have a choice. And that's what I'm trying to say for everyone. We have a choice. In a healthy situation, we make the best choice that we can for our bodies, for our mind, and for the collective good. And sometimes the thing that seems to be what I need to be doing now is not now. If I just use those gap spaces to breathe and find the balance, the light and the dark in every situation, right? Then I can take a deep breath and I can say, oh, let me slow down. Because
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the worst thing in the world for an activist is to burn out too soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I think Amanda had her hand first, and then Natasha.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Audrey. Thank you for your talk. I've enjoyed it. I find myself as someone that is like, I'll have good settling on these big questions, like in a space like this, like what is my deeper truth? What is my soul's work? But I find myself very externally influenced, like my emotions and my attention are just like carried along by so much outside. What would you suggest if we're trying to get back to that in the midst of like stress in the world or pressure or friends not texting us back and all the little things that just tank our mood? I don't know if that makes sense as a question. I hope I articulated that well.
We're here for the question. I don't know if you can hear the little bell.
Oh, bell. Yes. Oh, nice. Nice. No, I didn't, but I did hear it now.
That's a great question. And I see my beautiful friend Glenda here. I think, Glenda, that's a time for some transcendental meditation or some form of meditation, just taking the time to breathe. And sometimes when you go through that process, what you find is the things that you think are so critical have to be done right now. You can hit the pause button. I think we can have, you hear that thing about the dog wagging its tail, and yet then sometimes the tail is wagging the dog. We kind of get caught up in that. And we think that every phone call has to be answered. Every paper has to be written right on time. I mean, we try to do most of them on time, but there are times when you have to say, I can't do this right now. Right. And so we have to take charge of ourselves, not in an egoic way, but in a way of finding balance. It all comes back to balance. It all comes back to balance. And is it easy? It is once you kind of start, it's like learning to ride a bicycle. It's not easy at first because you might fall a few times and get the coordination right and all that. So it's the same thing. You got to work at it. You got to make a commitment. You got to meditate. You got to have a spiritual practice and breathe. And then you'll start to see what is really mine to do at this time. And maybe this just isn't it. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Certainly, Amanda. Natasha? You're muted, Natasha.
Sorry about that. I have so many things to say. I'm going to try and sum them up. Thank you so much, Jeneve and Audrey. Did I get your name right?
Yes, Audrey.
Yes. Okay. So I'm trying to know where to start, but basically, yes, I say no all the time. I have to, years ago, I was in an activist group, and there's one man who says, yeah, I wake up every morning and say no. And I said, hey, that makes sense. And, I kind of just thought of Terry, I haven't seen, I guess he moved to Texas, but anyway, so that's one thing. And laughter is really important. I too, like you, grew up in an activist family. My dad had a wonderful sense of humor. He never made fun of anybody, but he did puns and word plays and cool things like that. And now I'm teaching his jokes to my grandchildren. I said the puns will live on in the family. Okay.
Yes.
So it's great. And so my best times this summer have been with my grandchildren, especially one who's been going through a really hard time. I won't go in the whole thing, but it's a lot of stuff. Anyway, so she's been doing a lot of one-on-one time with me, and we've been laughing our heads off. It's been great, and I really need that. I meditate too. I'm with a group. I've been doing yoga for over 40 years. And it's not. I didn't get into spiritual. I'm an atheist with Unitarian and Jewish roots. So, yeah. But I do it because it calms me down.
Absolutely.
And so it's just whatever works. And the group that I'm doing, it's been online since the pandemic started, pretty much. And we support each other, and the whole thing. Some of this Buddhist stuff, I'm going, well, I don't really believe that. I believe in the peace part, but not the other part. But I just tune it out, and then I get up and I do the meditation on the floor with my feet up, and I go, hey, I think I can make it through the evening, and so it really helps. But it took me a long time to get through that. I said, this is boring. I can't do the yoga's fun, but the meditation. But 20 years ago, I said, hey, maybe I'll give this meditation stuff another try. And it worked, it does help me. Yeah. So that's all I want to say. Thank you very much, Ralph. Thank everybody for being here.
Thank you, Asha. I appreciate that. And also that you brought forward the jokester, and comedy is, truly, come on, folks. Every one of you can think about something you fought so hard for and think of all the funny things that happened along the way. I remember as a child during the civil rights movement, and my father and mother were very active. And from a little girl standpoint, all I could think about, boy, they sure have a lot of fun, because they were working in a very strenuous situation, but they laughed. They were making fun of situations. They were teasing each other, and then they were back out on the street again. So laughter is very healing and very, rejuvenating for us. Yes. Anyone else?
Thank you so much. I think we are almost out of time, and I did want to get to Martha. Thank you, Audrey. And if you guys have any maybe more questions for Audrey, you might want to pop them in the chat, and Audrey, you could answer them there. And this is just such a beautiful sharing. So I wanted to introduce Martha Collins, and she's going to be leading us in the wellness wheel. And Martha, I apologize that we're a little behind, and we might do just no breakout rooms, but you can introduce the wheel and whatnot. But I'll introduce you, and so that people know your background. Martha is an advocate and a human rights activist, and she has been working in social justice organizations for quite a long time, for over 2 decades. She does public policy work. I was very impressed to learn that she led the successful coalition for the Wisconsin Family Medical Leave Act in 2015. In 2016, she led the largest rally in Wisconsin for the fight for $15 for minimum wage. So really, really cool stuff. And I could go on, but I don't want to take her time here. She also is working with the United Nations Association, and she is involved in WILPF and various issue committees, and is also the development committee chair. Martha, thank you.
Of course, no. And I thank you all for being here today, for asking great questions, for sharing, for being vulnerable a little bit, and kudos and shout outs to Ms. Audrey. Thank you so much. I was taking so many notes, trying to stay in the moment and breathing and meditating, but I was like, I've got to write that down. Because for me personally, but it also plays into this next part that we're about to do. You said something of where's the imbalance in your life? Where's the balance or imbalance in your life right now? And that's just what this wellness wheel is all about. It really helps you to look at, they have 7 different pillars, and I don't know if we're going to get a chance to show,
yes,
or if we're going to set it out as an attachment, but 7 different pillars in of our lives, where we kind of take a look at that. It's called the wellness wheel. Sometimes it's called the wheel of life, but it looks at that. And then you should kind of step back and do this activity, especially when you're feeling burnt out, when you're stressed, when you're restless. You might be tempted to move to a new city, quit a job, change your hair, change your look. It says, hey, this is a tool. So it's kind of a resource that sometimes we think a big change is the only way to improve our lives, but really we just need to take a few small tweaks and steps. As Audrey mentioned, she gave us so many to think about or to put in our toolbox as it relates to wellness and self-care, going out into nature and things of that nature. So the wellness wheel, or the wheel of life, is kind of this tool that helps you to do that, to look at that. So again, is that looking at these 7 different pillars. The first being mental or emotional, and that takes care of your mind, right? By practicing mindfulness, as well as engaging in stimulating mental activities, such as, your quality of thoughts, learning new things, quieting your mind. And so again, some examples was shared with us as like enrolling in a program or activity that expands your awareness of self. So, looking at the mental, also emotional, taking care of matters of the heart with healthy coping strategies and self-compassion. So example, writing positive affirmations, doing something that makes you laugh, asking for help when you need it. Looking at the physical, taking care of your body, exercise, nutrition. I heard someone say they participate in yoga, but just or taking naps. So again, sleep is really big, or looking at your eating habits or exercising. Environmental, taking care of the spaces and places around you. The level of comfort in your living space. Coming onto this call, someone said, "Oh, I didn't know we were going to be able to see each other." And she got comfy in her favorite chair with her favorite relaxed jeans or yoga pants, and had her, feet up, relaxing in her space. Spiritually, taking care of your soul through activities or practices that provides a sense of purpose, direction, meaning of your life. Some of those questions, what is your deepest truth, your authentic self? What is my soul's work? All these are great, deep, mindful meditation type of spiritual questions to ask yourself. Recreation, taking care of your inner child with hobbies, fun activities, new exercises. So playing on the I live in Wisconsin, so I'm gonna say Lake Michigan, but playing in the water, playing like a child in the water was advised to us. And then the social, taking care of your relationships through regular connection, respectful boundaries, honest conversations. Again, finding that person to have a supportive relationship with, not someone just, as Ms. Audrey mentioned, to just hear what we want to, that they're going to say what we want to hear all the time, not necessarily, but someone that's supportive. And so this wheel, the first step you want to do is start by giving each area kind of a score. So on the scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, where 1 means you are struggling and feeling unfulfilled in the area, and 10 means you're satisfied with that area. Don't think it needs much improvement. Try not to overlook your answers. And, just being really honest as you go through each one of those pillars. The second step is you could color in the wheel, the resources we'll share with you all. You'll see this will make more sense. You could color the number of spaces under each one of these pillars on the wheel that matches your ranking. And so then it gives you kind of a visual versus just numbers of 1, 2, 3, but a visual of this. I've shaded in 3 boxes in the area of spiritual, but 7 in the area of physical, right? As you'll likely see, your wheel isn't much of it will because it's not going to be even all the way around. So, but that gives you, again, a visual of what areas you may want to start looking at first. And then the last step, now that you have an idea of which area needs improvement, trying to focus on some small changes you can make over the next 3 to 6 months. Sometimes we were talking right now about the equinox, And there was mention of the solace at the end of the year. And that's a time, in January or the end of the year where people start making these adjustments and changes in their lives and start saying, okay, I'm gonna travel this many times, I'm gonna lose this many pounds, and start to set those goals. So this is a really good timing to do this, where if you identify some things in the next 3 months or so, you could start looking at different ways to improve it. Once you do that, I could give more examples of each different pillar, or I don't know if you want to go to the next slide, Jeneve, where it's the questions. And as a group, we can, if you're willing, we can just in a larger group setting, maybe start just popcorn style, folks making mention of right away, different areas that specifically that they wanted to look into. So for instance, there you go. What is one area of strength you have in your wellness wheel? And what strategies or habits do you participate in daily to make this area of strength? I think we could give examples, but it'd be awesome to hear from folks that's like, oh, I've nailed the physical, pillar. And, these are the things that I do, and kind of hear from your peers of how they're able to, how they feel so confident and able to work in those areas so successfully. So do we have a volunteer that would like to share maybe that first bullet of one area of strength, and then the different strategies or habits that you've been doing to make sure this area is a strong area for you?
This is Audrey. I would say for that first question, I've worked a lot on my emotional aspect, the mental emotional. And let's see, okay, what strategies or habits do you participate in daily? I do meditation. I also do a daily walk. And then I've learned how to change my language, and I'm working on, I should say, changing language in my dialogues with others so that I'm clearly stating what I feel, but also I'm receiving back what the other person is really saying without sending it through all my filters.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else?
Virginia.
I think
Oh, you muted yourself, Virginia. Somehow you went on mute.
I think in the last year I've been really good about the physical things, like I walk at lunchtime, I in the good weather walk after work, or swim, or ride my bike occasionally. But I'm gonna do something that's a challenge for me that I've been on my list for a while. Is I scheduled an appointment with an attorney for next month to redo my will. It's been something that's been on my mind for like 10 years. And I'm finally doing it. So I think I like the idea of the wheel, because I think we all have strengths or areas that we're really good in. And sometimes if we excel in one, we can sort of negate another. So I think that was very helpful, Martha.
Anyone else? And I'm sorry, I can't see you all, so I just see the slide if there's a hand up. For me, I'm going to say environmental is an area that I am trying to work on. So I know the first one was strength, and I'm moving on to an area of improvement. It's decluttering the workspace, or decluttering in general. I've got a friend who has a car. I live in Wisconsin. It's a little thing called snow that happens here, and they don't have a garage. I have a garage, but it's full of stuff. Like I could barely put my car in there. So tomorrow we're decluttering the garage, and like that's huge. Like they're like, I will call 1-800-JUNK, and because you're storing my old school car for me, I appreciate you. And I'm like, so it's kind of a bartering thing, but it's forcing me and my sons to clean the garage out. And so I'm like so excited about tomorrow because every day when I come home, I just shake my head and felt some type of way about it. So that's how I'm going to improve in that area. Anyone else wants to talk about a strength or an improvement? Okay, well, so you'll get all these things in the email sent to you, but I'm just trying to think of some that hasn't already been shared. You know, another area of improvement or for me is emotional. I recently lost my mother, and I've joined like a support group to work through grief, and I may even, break down and get a therapist, right? But I feel that that's so important because she wouldn't want me to live the way I have this past year, sad and depressed and, not having my emotions in check. And so that's another area where I've been in the support group now for like 6 months, but an area where I'm like, okay, I can see the wanting to have improvement, but also feeling strong and feeling a little bit more strength in that area. And so I feel like we've kind of mentioned about some examples in all of these that I had jotted down. Recreation, playing board games or video games. I never thought about it in that way. I'm always yelling at my boys about playing the video game. Or even social, calling or talking to a friend or relative. I have a cousin that's like a sister cousin, and we talk every day. And so again, I thank you all so much for being here, for being engaged. Audrey, so thank you so much for hitting everything and setting us up, to be able to really be well, holistically. And I just want to leave by one little short quote that says, self-care means giving yourself permission to pause. And I think we heard that over and over and over throughout the presentation. And so to remember that, not to feel guilty at all, because if you're not your whole self, you can't do anything. You can't do anything for yourself or for anyone else. So thank you so much. And I will, and you got to make me show you my cat. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Martha. That was wonderful. And thank you all for being here. And this was just such an awesome time of sharing and resting and relaxing together. And maybe we'll do one for the spring equinox. Yeah, it was really special. I just want to leave with just a few more just a passage from Trisha Hersey, the conclusion. Go to your spaces of rest, joy, and freedom. Create them in your imagination. Create them in your heart. Do all these things too, by yourself, but also with others. We will not heal alone. We thrive together. And lastly, our battle cry and our mantra, we will rest. Say it in your hearts, whisper it out loud, repeat it as you fall asleep. Tell your neighbor, we will rest. So this equinox, thank you so much, Audrey. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, this was awesome. And I see some suggestions for the resource sheet. So give me a minute, but I'm going to try and get it to you like an hour or so. And also, if you, we would love if you wanted to donate a little bit more. I will provide the donation link. Just for this type of programming, it does take work, and a lot of the activist work we do. So we would love it if you wanted to give us $5 more or whatever. We would really appreciate it. And thank you all for the work you do. And thank you,
Jeneve. Don't forget, get some rest.
Exactly. I need rest. Thank you.
Martha, I have a quick question for you. Do you know Monica Willard?
Monica Willard. Why do I know that name?
Ewan? We'll talk
Yeah.
off.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeneve.
Thank you.
And thank you. This is Linda Modica, and I'm also with United Religions Initiative.
Oh, thank
So
you.
thank you so much.
Hi, Linda.
And I'm gonna send you an invitation to a celebration on Tuesday for the Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons
Oh, great.
Youth Award winner.
All right, great.
So-
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you all. Take care. And thank you very much. Really appreciate this.
Bye.
Bye-bye.